car. Yep. Dropped off the head right off the bat. He said all the guides were loose, so it's gonna get all new guides. But nonetheless, reverting back to what we were doing yesterday at Bobby's STI, as you guys saw, well, you didn't see, but on the way to the head shop, it's running absolutely perfect. Heading back now, it's all breaking up and just running like shit. So I'm gonna pull over and I'm gonna do a test. Whatever fuel pump is on this fuse right here, it's shot. It gets hot, it won't even supply the engine with fuel. I knew it was a freaking fuel pump issue. AEMs it is. So now that we are playing the waiting game on engine stuff, before we can build the complete engine, we need the stuff back. So you guys already know, well, you may know, but I'm gonna make this engine bay very, 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 very nice. I've always been wanting to do this. We are doing tubbed fenders, shaved bay, nice smooth looking bay. So I got a fender. This is actually a trailer fender. And then I bought a bunch of 20 gauge sheet metal. So the goal is, of course, now that the fuse box is relocated and everything's relocated, we don't need anything in this engine bay. The only things that are staying in the bay are what is in here. We've got a motor mount there, regulator, master, flex fuel, which, to be honest, I may even relocate this to like up here or maybe up in here to kind of get it out of the way, clean up the bay a little bit more. These are going to be tucked way up in there so you can't see them. But what I was saying is, being that the factory fuse box sits right here and now it is sitting down there, we are going to create a tubbed fender look using our trailer fender. This is something I've always wanted to do, never had the balls to actually try to pull it off. But now that I do have the balls to try to pull it off, because I pulled off every other little thing I wanted to do on this car, I figured I should probably pull it off. Let's see how far we can get today, my friends. I'm excited. There's gonna be a lot of welding, a lot of grinding. I think to get everything started off, I'm just gonna go ahead and work on the tubbed fenders first. Of course, there's a lot of other holes that we don't need, clips that we don't need, things I need to smooth out. There's still a little bit of body damage right here from the wreck. And I don't know how crazy I'm gonna go with it. Of course, I want it nice looking, but I don't wanna spend weeks and weeks and weeks on it, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna pop this motor mount off. Of course, we do need to maintain clearance over here for this motor mount. On this side, there's nothing. We do need clearance for the headlights. And that's it. So without further ado, I guess, let's work on this side. I know this side's gonna be a little bit easier because we don't need clearance to the motor mount. I'm nervous. Hopefully this turns out good. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with removing all the tabs I don't need. I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this, as far as this side goes. After we get the fender up in here, hopefully it follows this line nicely. I'm sure there's some of this that we're gonna have to trim out, not a big deal. I'm gonna leave the motor mount on just to make sure we keep adequate clearance for that. How I'm gonna remove all these guys is this handy dandy little belt sander. I went to Home Depot to get a Milwaukee and they were out of stock, so Harbor Freight it is for now. Alrighty boys, this was the last thing. Now everything on the side is removed. Of course, besides the motor mount. And we can go to town and build some stuff. Okay, so this little mount right here, that was for the factory fuse box. We don't need that. All right, our first bracket is officially off. There still is a little bit of material here. I'd rather go not far enough so we can grind it smooth versus go too far and have to fill it in. Got everything cleaned up over here. Even if we left it like this, sprayed the bay, it'd look way better than what it did before. But I want to go above and beyond with this bay. I want to make it look beautiful. Here's our fender. We only need, of course, one fender because we can cut it in half, use half of it for the driver's, other half for the passenger side. So I think what I'm gonna start with is just cutting it right in half. It did include this little backboard inner fender thingy, which I may end up cutting off, not exactly sure yet, but let's start off with getting your cut right in half. All right, let's see how much work we got cut out for us today. Looks like the radius is gonna be perfectly in line with this frame rail here, which of course was the main concern. But man, oh man, we do have our work cut out for us. So this guy is clearly a bit too long and too wide, which of course that's better than being too short and not wide enough. So I trimmed that little backing plate off. I'm gonna trim this edge over here. Being that the frame rail kind of comes in at an angle, of course we don't want the fenders sitting at a weird angle. So I have a line drawn of where exactly I need to trim it. So I'm gonna do the width first, and it'll be like that. That looks perfectly freaking straight to me. So I'm gonna trim that. And then I think the hardest part of this project, as far as the fenders go, is going to be trimming this up here around this. Maybe it's not gonna be that difficult. I'm not really sure, but to me it looks difficult. So I'm gonna trim the width. Hopefully I don't mess this up. If I do, the fenders only 40 bucks, I think it was. So I got what I thought would be the hardest part all finished up. For the most part, it could use a little bit of fine finishing, but now it's a little bit too long, as you guys can see. I want it to sit about there, so I need to do some trimming on the bottom here. Ideally, I want it, like I said earlier, radiused with that frame rail perfectly. So let me do some measurements, see how much we need to trim off. But we're damn near done with one of the radiuses. Of course, we still need to build a base plate and then fill in the side here with the sheet metal. Bam, bam, bam. Look at that, my friends. Sheesh. So this here is how the top piece is gonna sit. Pretty nice fit right up in here. This edge is not the best just because there's like some not so flat areas on the frame rail. So everywhere there's a little bit of a red mark, I'm going to trim in just to get it to fit a little bit better. so we don't have to fill as much weld up in there. But damn, this thing is gonna be cool. I am so excited. All right, I got the fitment way freaking better. Spent maybe 15-20 minutes just notching this complete edge to fit nicely, like so. What do you guys think? Comment below. Is that cool or is that dumb? I think it's cool. So the next thing I'm gonna build is some sort of base plate on top of this rail here to back here. Moving right along, the base plate's finished up. Nice sweep, a little flat part down there. That's mainly for clearance of the headlight. That's the only thing that's gonna be interfering with that. And of course, I'm gonna check clearance with the headlight before I fully weld this in. Now, the last part, we need to close this side off. Let's see how this goes. The driver's side is all fabbed up and it looks beautiful. From here, I'm gonna tack the 3 pieces together. There is only 3 pieces total: the radius, base plate, and then the side cover. I'm gonna tack them together and then we can weld it onto the chassis later on. I was debating taking some material out underneath this. As you can see, we could take quite a bit out. This whole section right here could come out, but I don't really see the point, if I'm being honest. All right, so it's all just lightly tacked up. Now, of course, this is down here is where the motor mount bolts on. So when I weld this onto the car, we just gotta push in just a little bit like that. We should be good. That went way easier than I thought it would go. Granted, we're not done yet, but still easier than I thought it would. I'm gonna sit on the core support real quick, test with the headlight, make sure it's good. I'm confident it is, but I wanna make sure. Oh yeah, not a worry in the world. Look at that. Freaking perfect. I like it, boys. So what do you think? Before I set it on the car, you guys can see I went on the backside and stitched it all together, all around the whole entire thing, just to make it a little bit stronger. Now I need to take and mark exactly where it sits on the car and go ahead wire wheel off all the paint. I'm gonna weld it to the body of the car, and then I'll weld this in and that in, and then we need to grind it smooth. So we still got a ways to go, but I think the hard part, the technical part, is done. We got her tacked up where she's gonna sit. Motor mount will fit. I have to trim it just a tiny bit on this outside edge that used to cram up against the chassis. So that'll fit easily, good to go there. Now, of course, I want this seam right here perfect, a nice seamless look. So I'm gonna have to fully weld the whole thing in and then grind it smooth. That's gonna be a lot of work. So I forgot to hit the record button, but I got this fully welded in, and then I used that little Harbor Freight special to give her a nice sweeping grind, I guess you could say. That turned out good. This whole seam is welded up. I have a feeling we're gonna have to do a tiny bit of body work. Of course, I want as little filler as possible. Now I need to go through, weld all this up, weld that up there. Of course, this has to look nice. That I am not too concerned with it. Of course, I want it to look nice. And then down here, you're not gonna be able to see it all, but I'm still gonna, of course, weld it up. This may not be the most difficult project in the world, but my gosh, it is certainly the messiest. So this seam is done, that seam is done, that seam is done. We need to do a little bit of work up in there, trying to figure out what to do there. This is about 95% done, and I ran out of belts. I'm gonna clean up the shop, come back in the morning, finish that side up, and then we can start fabricating that side. Of course, we do still need to do body work, but before that, we have to replicate that on that side. I've been trying to do some research, figuring out the best kind of body filler for something like what we're doing today. I am worried that there's gonna be flex in the engine bay on the shock towers and whatnot, and of course, with too much flex, your filler is gonna start cracking. So I'm starting to get a rough idea, but if you have any suggestions, drop a comment in the comment section below. If you've ever done like a shaved or tubbed bay and you've used filler in the past and it's worked good for you, please let me know. The last thing I want to do is do body work, spray the bay, have it crack. That'd be terrible. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Peace out, my good friends, and I'll see you boys in the next video.